mimosas for
Good
everyone.
morning, everybody. That's a good way to start. Everybody's talking about mimosas here at Jubilee Circle this morning. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here in the building, and thank you so much for joining us out there in YouTube land. You are at Jubilee Circle, so welcome and congratulations for making it here this morning. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to everyone who is a father, everyone who has a father, everyone who has filled in the role of father in their lifetime. Happy Father's Day to everyone. All right, and so right off the bat, we're going to make you cry. So here we go. 2, 3, 4. My child arrived just the other day. Came to the world in the usual way, where there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking before I knew it. And as he grew, he said, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. My son turned 10 just the other day. Said, thanks for the ball, Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today, got a lot to do. He said, that's okay. And he walked away, but a smile never dimmed. He said, I'm gonna be like him, yeah. You know I'm gonna be like him. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. He came home from college just the other day. So much like a man, I just had to say, son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while? He shook his head and he said with a smile, what I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later, can I have them, please? And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. Long since retired, my son's moved away. Called him up just the other day. Said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I can find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids have the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. All right, y'all. Welcome again to Jubilee Circle on a Father's Day Sunday. And today, because Tuesday I think it is the summer solstice. And so whenever we change our seasons, we change our VIAs. So today we are beginning our VIA Positiva, and our theme is going to be, oh, the humanity. And we're going to learn how to not say that in a despairing tone, but instead talk about our commonalities, all the things we share as human beings, and especially that original blessing that we all carry together. Right, yeah, no dirigibles were harmed in the making of this VIA. So yes, happy Father's Day, everybody. When we think of parents, whether we're thinking about mothers or fathers, we tend to think, maybe some of us, maybe I'm assuming here, but many of us think of dedication. Now, I mean, it's true, not all parents are dedicated to their children's happiness or success, but in general, that is a basic qualification of a good parent, someone who is dedicated to their children's safety and their success in the world. This is the idea of dedication as selfless devotion to another person. And often, you know, that idea is something that we think about in music. Back in the old-fashioned radio days, you'd call up the DJ and you would dedicate a song to somebody to show our selfless devotion to them, to express how they are somehow sacred to us. This is the kind of dedication that the holy calls us to exercise in this world, to dedicate all of our songs of love, not just to those we see as special to us, but to dedicate our love to the whole world. From the smallest atom to the largest mountain, from the beloved friends and family to the hated enemies and foes, jubilants, we are called to express our dedication of love and joy and peace to everyone. The Holy invites us to selflessly pour ourselves out into this world that is so badly in need of a little selfless devotion. So no matter how much greed, hatred, or indifference we encounter in the world, the Holy calls us to dedicate ourselves to the practice of singing those unending songs of love out into the world, whether the world sings along or not. Because this is the kind of dedication that can make us all say, oh yeah. All right, I invite you to stand as you are able, and we will begin this morning, as we do every celebration here at Jubilee Circle, by remembering the four elements, the air and the water and the earth and the fire. And we burn black sage as a reminder to set our intentions for ourselves, for the happiness and joy and peace we want to live into, and the happiness and joy and peace that we want the world to live into. And we orient ourselves during this sacred time and space by calling the four directions. I invite you to turn and face the east. We thank you, Holy One, for the selfless dedication of the sun. It pours out its life-giving warmth without regard to status or class or race, nationality, any other label or division we might create. Instead, it spreads itself across our globe with selfless generosity. Help us to learn the lesson of the sun and dedicate our lives each morning to spreading your holy love and generosity with that same dedication. Quarter turn to the right and we face the south. We thank you, Holy One, for the selfless dedication of the heat of the south. It spreads its warmth without regard to our need or desire for comfort. It brings sweat to the brows of everyone, regardless of social class or status or race, nationality, any other label or division we create. Help us, Holy One, to be more like the south, applying the heat of justice and equity whenever we find injustice and oppression. Help us to be those sources of heat that melts the cold hearts of those who spread the ice of division in the world. Quarter turn to the right, we face the west. We thank you, Holy One, for the dedication of the west as the stars in the darkness slip over the sun without regard to our preference for the light of day. Remind us, Holy One, that the west calls us to let go of our dedication to our preferences, our prejudices, our notions of how the world ought to be. Help us to put aside our dedication to anything that causes ourselves and others to suffer in this world, and instead dedicate ourselves to love and joy and peace. Quarter turn to the right. We face the north. We thank you, Holy One, for the cold winds of the north. No matter our dedication to bundling up against those chilly blasts, that cold wind will penetrate the heart of everyone on this earth, regardless of class or status. Open us, Holy One, to the chill of winter. Remind us that without the cold, there can be no warmth. or new life. And as we turn back toward the center and look around the room, there are a bunch of folks out there with competing dedications. Some of us are a mixture of being dedicated to ourselves and others, and we are all a blend of contradictory desires, to be there for others, but to preserve precious time for ourselves. And the Holy understands all those conflicts and invites us in each moment to keep choosing the dedications that move us toward unity, toward more joy and more peace and more community, because that is the kind of dedication that makes the whole world say, oh, yeah. All right. Come back around. You guys get a double dip. All right. Double dipping on the sage. That's a good thing. All right. And get these guys back here. All right. I don't want to leave anybody out. That's for the band. All right. Remain standing. We're going to sing another classic song for you this morning from Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. A little bit about teaching our children. All right. And as we sing, I invite you to greet one another and say good morning this morning. All right. Are we ready? 2, 3, 4. On the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's help is slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the ones they fix, the ones you know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh. That your elders grew by, so teach our children. We believe they seek to make a world that they can die. Teach your parents well, their children's hell will slowly go by. On your dreams, the ones they fix, the ones you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh. May be seated. Bruce Clark there on the lead, making us sound good today. All right.
There wasn't even a pedal steel.
No, but it sounded very
I had to channel my best Jerry Garcia, and you know, so.
Very good job. Good job. All right. Welcome everybody. And if you are watching out there on the YouTube or even here in the room, I think we may have a bulletin left over there. And if you don't have one, you can go online and find one at jubileecircle.com. There is a button there. You can download a PDF of the bulletin and follow along. You'll have all the readings and all the lyrics and everything. So that's where you will find that. So welcome to Jubilee Circle. We are an inclusive, progressive, interfaith community here in Columbia, South Carolina. We teach the timeless common wisdom of love and unity that you're going to find in every mainstream religion, in metaphysical philosophies, mysticism, and inspired secular and religious writers and teachers throughout the ages. We use popular music and teachings, weekly celebrations, educational and artistic events, and other community-building activities because we're trying to create a space here for everyone to experience their own transformation so then they can go out and be that transformation in the world. And we believe we're here to expand our souls, to find a deeper meaning in life, to renew our commitment to love and peace and justice, to learn how to love wastefully and undergo a transformation from the inside out to discover how to live more and more fully into our higher divine self. We also recognize we're part of God's good creation. We are formed not just in love and peace and joy, but also in stardust. But we forget this as human beings. We slide out of mama and we look around and we see a world of separation. You're over here, I'm over there. And then we start to judge it. And then we start to quantify, oh, that's better than this. We look around and those people are beautiful, those people are ugly, those people are good, those people are bad, those people are generous, those people are stingy, those people are loving, and those people are just
recalcitrant. Have we tried vituperous yet?
I think we did that one a long time ago.
Oh, okay, never mind.
That's a good one, though. I don't know if you can shout that one out as well as recalcitrant. Recalcitrant.
Clean that up.
What? Lugubrious, that's a good one. We also recognize, though, our true function here, Jubilants, is to continually learn that we have never really left our true home of unity, and we are here on a journey of remembering who we truly are, and that is an innocent, beloved child of God, the innocent, beloved child of God, since we're all one, and we are the light of the world, and that should make you say, oh, yeah. All right, a few announcements before we move on. Today, I'm going to be sitting out in the audience because Tamara Miles is going to come up here and speak to us today on some Father's Day centered stuff. There could be poetry. Poetry could break out here at any minute. So just warning y'all.
Poetic warning.
So you
Poetic
know.
warning.
This is a poetry danger zone up here. It's going to be great. And next week, Beth and I are going to be on like a proper vacation. And so Holly Emore, who is with Cherry Hill Seminary, is going to come and talk with us on how to think like a mountain. It's going to be really interesting. She sent me her sermon, and it's great. You're going to enjoy it. So please, yes. So think like a mountain, because everybody must get stoned. Okay. There you go. All right. So, right. Huh? That's right. If everybody must get stoned, we would not feel so all alone. Coming up this Friday, June 24th, I'm counting this as my birthday party, a night of dynamic duos. We got three great duet musicians, duos, whatever. Brody and Kelly Porterfield, who are the Water Kickers, Jeff and Kelly Gregory from the Runout, and Ken Baldwin and Igor Ivanov, who are just amazing, are all going to be here Friday night, and we hope that you will come and join us to this just amazing night of music. We're going to have refreshments and drinks and a really good time. So, yeah. Tamara? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
June 25th, 10 a.m., the Poetry Society of South Carolina is hosting a poetry trails event and music. Michael's coming and some other people are coming. And we will have poetry and music and tea sandwiches that I will make myself, little cookies, and we'd love to have you with us.
And where's this happening?
Congaree National Park,
Okay, so,
the main office.
Ranger.
okay, so at Congaree National Park, because they can't hear you without the microphone.
Congaree
Okay. So, Congaree National Park, 10 a.m. on June 25th, the Poetry Society of South Carolina is hosting, what is it called? Music? Poetry Trails. Nature and poetry and music.
Come along, bring your poems.
So at 10 o'clock, it's going to be great. All right, cool. Jim, yeah. Yeah, get on the mic up here so we can we can-
interrupt
Nothing's not
this
so we can hear
announcement
everybody.
for singer
All right, Jim.
songwriter Jim Gazelle.
Oh, hello, everyone. So,
Good to see you, Jim.
Yeah, thanks. Jesus. Oh, there we go. Anyway.
Point it up a little. There you go.
So on July 1st, which is the first Friday of July, it's more or less the third anniversary of the beginning of Corinne and I's relationship. As I think most of you know, we're getting married later this year. But we consider the Jubilee July open mic to be the anniversary of our beginning because that's when it started. And the plans were not to have that this year. So we said, we didn't like that. So with Candace's permission, Corinne and I are going to put on the open mic for July. We, as the Moon Dancers, will be the featured entertainment. And so you actually get a chance to hear us do more than 3 songs for a change. And it'll be more or less like a regular open mic. We're going to be kind of busy with getting the sound and everything set up. We're going to need a little bit of help with some food and stuff if anybody wants to help make sure we have something. We're thinking just hot dogs and sauerkraut and stuff like that. But anyway, it'll be fun. Please spread the word because people may think that we're not going to be here in July.
It's true, yeah. We're sending mixed signals out there.
Right,
but
right. Yes, well, when does that ever happen? Anyway, thank you. I will leave the stage, but look forward to seeing you then if
Thanks,
you can
Jim.
make it. Sure.
All right. All right.
Don't forget to make an event page.
Are there any other announcements out here that I'm missing? All right, so July 8th, we're going to do Improverts again. And of course, Soundy School is always 10:30 on Sundays, and our Course in Miracles group meets Wednesdays at 7:30. All right, that's it? Okay. All right, hear these wise and holy words. From the Hebrew Scriptures, Isaiah 49:16. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me. From the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. If you look deeply into the palm of your hand, you will see your parents and all generations of your ancestors. All of them are alive in this moment. Each is present in your body. You are the continuation of each of these people. And 2 quotes from the Sufi poet Rumi. The truth was a mirror in the hands of God. It fell and broke into pieces. Everybody took a piece of it, and they looked at it and thought they had the truth. And anyone who genuinely and consistently with both hands looks for something will find it. These are wise and holy words. All creation is holy word. All creation speaks volumes of the holy. Hallelujah. Some of us on Father's Day read these words from Thich Nhat Hanh that you are a continuation of each of these people, and we cringe. I mean, really, come on, let's talk truthfully about our daddies for a minute. Sometimes I don't want to think that I am a continuation of my father. I don't look a lot like him. I look more like my mother. So it's easy for me to look in a mirror and not have to see him, you know. But I am the continuation of my father. I'm the continuation of my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, great-greats, all of them, all of those people. And we are a continuation of God. And many times we don't even want that designation. I'm a continuation of God. Well, that's a little bit of a responsibility, isn't it? But it's also a responsibility to be a continuation of your parents. We did a workshop yesterday that I led, and I talked a little bit about the journey to forgiving my own father. And when I actually got around to the point of forgiving him, he was already dead. So I went to his gravestone and said the words I needed to say. And it was pointed out very helpfully by Jessica yesterday that it was easier. It was so easy for me to go and forgive a headstone. And it really was. Because I could avoid a lot of the messiness. Because I'm sure Dad had a few things to say to me too, you know. But the other thing to know is that forgiveness is for ourselves. It is so we can walk this path more responsibly as a holy continuation of our earthly parents and our heavenly parent. And yes, there's messiness in forgiveness. I went through my own messy process to get there. But I do believe that since we are all one, that my Father also forgives me for whatever it is in his mind I may have done wrong. And I think that he would be proud that I am an extension of him, a continuation in this world. So I invite you in this moment, think about who you're continuing to be in this world. And if you have children, they're a continuation of you. And they're thinking the same thing, right? And that's the thing, is that we're all just doing our best. And that's the point I had to arrive at with my dad. He did his best. My 9-year-old self didn't judge his best as being very good. And I continued to judge him that way for a long time. But he did his best. He did his best with what he had. And now, as a continuation of him, I get to do better because I know more. And I know better. And that's a gift that we can give as others continue from us. Oh, yeah? Breathe deeply. So I am happy and honored today to welcome in our celebration talk time Tamara Miles. She is a poet in her own right and a teacher and the president of the Poetry Society of South Carolina. And she has agreed to come and tell us some stories and do some poetry for us this morning.
Woohoo! Although I would like to get used to it. This is just way down the whole. Yeah,
Here,
maybe I'm okay.
I'll take mine off.
Whoa!
Let me take mine off.
Can we lock this in?
Unfortunately not.
Okay. I think I'm heavy. I got some heavy stuff. All right. So the
Heavy poetry today.
Yes, I do. Okay. First of all, let me give a little handout because I'm a teacher.
Right. There will be assignments today. Right. Is this going to be on the test?
And pins too, Matt? Somebody? You got pins? I don't know if I brought enough. I hope I did.
Okay. I have my own. So.
All right, let's see how I'm doing on the sound. Is this all right? This is going to slide down the whole time. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Hello. Okay. It's okay. We're good. So you have your hand out. Just hold on to it. I'll give you a little instruction, okay, a little later. You were carved out of the sea, watermarked by your ancestry, caught between the tide and me. What felt like loss was a victory. You were swept ashore like bottles holding prayers. I brought a little bottle with me today. In this bottle, I wrote my father a note. It just says, "I love you, Dad." We're still working on the rest of it. This isn't going to be a happy little princess story about a father who read me to bed at night, and those kinds of things. But it's going to be a real story, and it's going to be a story of love, a love that is ongoing and a forgiveness process that is ongoing. And I'd like to say up front that any time I'm referring to the flaws and crimes and sins of my father, it is really largely to avoid looking at my own, which is very painful, much more difficult. So at some point I might get to that part in another talk, if you'll have me back again, because I can give about 100 talks. All right. You and I, whomever we are, were carved from the lives of our parents. We were watermarked by them in genetic and environmental ways. If you believe in genetic memory, and I do, we are carrying not only the psychological and physical traits of our parents in our DNA, but something of their experiences, something of their pleasures and their pains, their questions, especially their unanswered questions. Dad and I have been trying to ask some questions of our ancestors and ourselves, and from that effort, a world has opened up to us. Family characters have come spilling out of that vast sea in their little bottles, like little ships or prayers, and sometimes they are beer bottles or liquor bottles. I came up with that image just this morning, by the way. It would make Dad laugh, and I like to make him laugh. So let's say my dad rolled out of the sea in a beer bottle and told me this story, and this is from chapter 1. My dad asked me to write a book about his life. He actually said, write the story, the crazy story of my life, and I have done it. I have 50,000 words of a draft. So this is from chapter 1. I'll read a little bit and talk a little bit. Did the timer start? Did someone start the timer? I did. Okay, great. He's got a sand. Show him. Hold it up. He's got a sand timer for me. When it gets about, hourglass. So when it gets about halfway through, let me know. Okay. My father killed a woman in the winter of 1970. He was driving his 1964 Chevrolet Impala to midnight bowling in Marietta, Georgia, after his shift at Lockheed Martin. At Marietta Lanes, the oldest bowling alley in the area, he explained to me, you could take your beer in there and drink and bowl. The regular leagues that was bowling, they bowled till about midnight and they left, and then we come in, and we was doing pot bowling. We had a little league too, but pot bowling was for money. Whoever got the highest score got the pot. I didn't do good on that. I couldn't keep up. Guys could throw a strike anytime they wanted to. They was great. I lost some money, I won't lie to you. He had his own black bowling bag and ball, and I have a photo of him grinning with a bowling trophy. His life at that time was working and drinking, driving fast cars, having a good time. He shouldn't have gone out on that heavy snow and fog, but he was determined to. A testimonial to the willful nature of my dad and to the stubbornness that might also exist in me. But on that terrible night, the headlights that blinded him started a chain of events that changed our lives for good and took us away from each other for years. He had stopped at a bar for a few drinks and then headed down Allgood Road to join his buddies at Marietta Lanes. And soon he noticed a vehicle coming toward him, or seeming to, but it turned out to be standing still, idling. The driver of that car had stopped and opened his door to a woman walking down the middle of the street in the cold. She stood by the door in that moment of deciding, you know, should I get in or should I not? But Dad never saw her. Believing the other car had some kind of car trouble, he swung his car forward and plowed right into the open door, striking the woman. She came flying up to the hood, he says, as he remembers, and then she fell to the ground. I pulled the car over for just a minute, and I should have done something. I should have tried to help her, but I didn't. I kept driving in the direction of the bowling alley. After a few minutes, he realized he needed to turn himself in. So he stopped at an all-night Crystal restaurant where he spotted an off-duty police officer and told him what happened. They got in the police car together and headed back to the scene of the accident, where now emergency crews were all gathered around, and a state trooper waited with the woman's body covered by a sheet. The other driver identified Dad as the man who had struck the poor woman, and Dad was taken to the Marietta jail and booked. He was allowed to call my mother, and soon she arrived at the jail with me in tow. I was 5 years old. I don't remember it. I remember very little of my childhood, especially my early childhood. So I have to rely on what I've been told, on photographs and family stories, and on the occasional firing of my memory cells. I had some kind of strange fainting spells when I was a toddler, and I was put on phenobarbital. The doctor said I had petit mal epilepsy. I had fainting spells, and I was put on phenobarbital, and I stayed on phenobarbital every day until I was 11 years old. It probably didn't help my memory any, but it calmed my anxieties. I am an anxious person. Anybody in here ever have any anxiety? Okay. Yeah. My father is an incredibly anxious person, and that night in Fair Oaks, Georgia, he must have been beside himself. Mom got him a lawyer, an older one with a lot of experience, and bailed him out. He was only in for one night. When time came for court, no one arrived on behalf of the poor woman. She was only about 23. She was in trouble. She had skipped out on bail herself from Texas and had made her way down to Georgia. She may have been suicidal. We don't exactly know what was going on, why she was walking down the street in the middle of heavy snow in the dark and the cold, wrapping her coat around her. She had long black hair. I don't know her name. Dad doesn't know it. I've tried to find it out, and I haven't been able to yet. Mama would tell me years later that the woman had a bad reputation. With no one there to defend her, the judge decided to take Dad's license away for 6 months and fine him. He was back at work the next day. For a while, Mom drove him there, but eventually he started driving himself despite his restrictions. He says, I was a little shaky at first. When I asked how Mama felt about what happened, he said, I think she wanted to leave me then. She kept saying, you're crazy. You're crazy. He didn't really talk to anybody about what happened other than his friend Castleberry at Lockheed. They rolled the big planes in, he explains, and we got started. He learned how to paint planes in the Air Force when he failed flight mechanic school and begged not to be discharged. They sent him to Andrews Air Force Base in Washington, D.C., and his lifetime career as a painter began with fighter jets, F-106 and 107, military transport planes. The C-130, called Hercules, is described by Lockheed as one of the most important aircraft in aviation history, and my father was painting those planes. The first model of the C-130A was actually flown in Marietta in 1955, but that was long before Dad arrived there. In one of the photos I have of Dad, he's spray painting a gold nose cone, the very front of the airplane, and Mama is helping him. I have some photographs of them together at Lockheed. He met Mama at a party in D.C. She had moved there to work for the FBI when she was 18 years old. Now, you have to know, I got to talk to you about my mother. My mother's a whole different day. We'll talk about her another day because my heart, oh, my heart. But my mother was incredibly shy. Very, very vulnerable and shy. So it took incredible courage for her to leave her home in Newmarket, Alabama. This girl who was so shy that she cried every single day of first grade. She didn't want to leave her mother. She went to Washington, D.C. and worked for the FBI. She was a fingerprint tech, and that's going to be very interesting for us later in this conversation. She was 18. She stayed with her brother Dexter and his wife until she found an apartment there and a roommate named Joyce Bailey. And Mama did well at the FBI. She was promoted within a year. I have a copy of a letter from J. Edgar Hoover congratulating my mother on her promotion. But one of my cats got trapped in the closet and kind of tore it up, so there's not much left of that letter. It was ripped apart like so much else in our lives. Mama probably would have had an excellent career at the FBI, but then she met Dad. He was dancing with Joyce, her roommate, at a party when he noticed Mama, and he soon made his way over to introduce himself, and it wasn't long after that they were engaged. My father was absolutely beautiful. My mother was too. My dad, jet black hair, blue eyes that would just kill you, charm, lean body. He was a really good dancer, and he loved to dance. He was passionate. He was just out of the Air Force, and he needed employment, so he accepted a position at Lear Siegler in Burlington, Vermont, painting aircraft. The president, William Lear, had a remarkable story of his own that I've enjoyed reading. It's called They Said It Couldn't Be Done. At that time, the country was ready for great adventures into space, the launch of Sputnik to begin with, and for political change with John Kennedy. We would go to the moon, even though some said it couldn't be done. Dad's plan was that Mama would follow him to Vermont if the job worked out. He got settled into the YMCA near the company on a Friday night and was supposed to start work on Monday. Another man staying at the Y told him about a party, and they decided to go. It was way out in the country, and it took them a while to find the place. But they ended up having a good time, drinking, and stayed too long. And back on the road in the man's 52 Chevy, you know what happened. They faced sleet and dark on unfamiliar roads, and Dad remembers thinking, we're going a little too fast. When suddenly they rounded a curve, started to slide, and crashed into a large tree head on. The driver wasn't moving. He was dead. Dad had to get help. He walked for about half a mile to a house, and the next thing he knew, he was waking up in the hospital. He had ugly stitches across his head, and he called Mama to say, I don't think you're going to want to marry me now. I look like Frankenstein. She said it didn't matter. He was in the hospital for 3 days and was going to start work late at Lear, but the manager saw he was in no condition for the job. So he returned to D.C. and stayed with Mama and Joyce for a few weeks. Before he left, though, he went back to the scene of the accident and saw that across from the tree they hit, there was a cliff, and it was a long, long way down. He was lucky it had happened the way it did. When he asked at the hospital, no one would give him any more information, and he left town without knowing exactly what had happened to his friend, but we found out that he died. Mom and Dad got married on May 16, 1964, in a ceremony attended by the Justice of the Peace. I have sweet photos of them from that day. In one, they are embracing, and Mom's lovely long red hair shining from behind. Dad's got his buzz cut, as he always did. He still does, and his prominent widow's peak, and his fair skin, and they were both so beautiful. There were no obvious signs in this photo from the damage he'd had in his car accident. After the ceremony, they did some sightseeing around D.C., happily hitting all the tourist spots, until finally at the top of the Washington Monument, they had a quarrel. Dad said he wanted to throw Mom off the top, but they survived that encounter without death by making up as newlyweds usually do. And shortly after the marriage, Mama wanted to go home to Alabama, and soon she was pregnant with me. We lived in an apartment on Byrne Avenue in what is now the Five Points Historic District of Huntsville, Alabama, which, by the way, the latest news says Huntsville is the best city in the United States right now to live in. Most progressive place, lots of promising things happening there, and my daughter lives there. I'm so glad. And tornadoes. Never mind the tornadoes. Dad got a job at Brown Engineering in Huntsville, perhaps best known for its space projects. The 1965 company report says, Brown is engaged in such studies as the selection of landing sites on the moon, the analysis of proposed experiments man may perform when he reaches the moon, and the extended exploration of the moon. Did I mention my mother's last name is Moon? Sylvia May Moon. I love being a moon. Something very magical about it. When I was 3, my mother sat me in front of the television and made sure that I saw the men landing. She said, you don't want to miss this. And I do remember that part because she made such a big deal out of it, and I sat there and watched it on our little black and white TV. Yes, yes. So let me tell you in Dad's words, because I love giving his words, what his job was like at Brown Engineering. Parts first had to go to the shop where they had to dip them and clean them. Then they brought them over to us and we had to paint them. After they dried, we wrapped them back out and sent them out. At Brown, went to work at 4 p.m. to midnight. I worked by myself at night. I had the shop to myself. The rest of the crew worked daytime. The supervisor sort of liked me because I did a good job, so he let me turn things out at night. I think his name was Donnie. I went to bars after work. He often rode his bicycle to work and back. It was a short distance. So on the day I was born, Dad and Mom had been arguing, and he went to work in that mindset. Mama drove herself to the Huntsville hospital, and it was only after delivery that Dad was summoned. In one photograph I have, Mom is holding me, and Dad is looking down at his newborn daughter with his hands in his painter's pants pockets. They called me Tamara Lynn, but they called me Tammy. I didn't really love you when you were born, he told me later. Mama loved me deeply, though, and put me in my crib decorated with baby lambs every night, and she read to me all the time and sang, Tammy's in love. Y'all remember that? It's from the 60s. Yes. Sing it with me. Tammy, Tammy's in love. Right? I hear the hoot owl. Oh, my mother was so sweet. Yes. Yes. In a photograph of me, and this is getting to you, by the way, because we have a wall of innocence over here. And we want a photograph of you when you were tender and innocent. We want you to put it on that place over there. There's a picture of me over there with Santa Claus. In a photograph of me outside the apartment at age 2 or 3, I'm wearing a little blue and white flowered dress, smiling for all the world as if I knew no sorrow. I had a little red rocking chair of my own, and I always had a little glass bottle of Coca-Cola. There's another photo of me sitting in front of our black and white television watching the moon landing. Unfortunately, Dad was making life at home uncomfortable sometimes. He wanted meat and potatoes every night, and he got mad if Mama was resting or taking a nap when he arrived home. Y'all, I'm sorry, so close your ears if you don't want to hear this next part. When he was drunk, he was mean. Mama told me that once he told her, referring to me, get the little bitch away from the television. Still, there were good times. We went to Kansas City where Dad grew up and visited the zoo. There's a photo of me wearing a hat and looking with wonder at a baby deer. Granny Moon, Mama's mother, went with us, and I smiled to see her admiring the giant tortoises in one photograph. I'm pretty sure she'd never traveled anywhere before. She had 13 children in a Jim Walter mobile home in New Market, Alabama, and wore homemade dresses all her life. She was only about 45, but Dad said she looked a lot older. Mama liked to go out to Granny and Papa's every weekend, and Dad wasn't crazy about that, but I think it was because he couldn't drink out there. They wouldn't tolerate that, and there were so many people coming in and out, and he found this big family overwhelming. My father was an only child. Let's stop for a second, take a breath. What's your first question on your sheet? If your father rolled out of the sea in his bottle, what would that bottle look like? What would his message in the bottle be for you? What might be his prayer in the bottle? I'll let you think about it for a minute and write something down. If you want to share it, you can. And in honor of my father in the good old days,
was a place to go. Load the truck up, hit the dirt road. Jump the barbed wire, spread the word. Light the bonfire and call the girls. King in the can and the Marlboro man. Jack and Jim were a few good men where you learn how to kiss and cuss and fight too. Better watch out for the boys in blue and all this small town. He said, she said. Ain't it funny how rumors spread like I know something y'all don't know? Man, that talk is getting old. You better mind your business, man. Watch your mouth before I can knock that loud mouth out. I'm tired of talking, man. Y'all ain't listening. Them old dirt roads is what y'all miss.
swerving like I'm George Jones. Ice cold beer sitting in the console. Memory lane up in the headlights. Got me wishing all the good times. Any memories? Anything coming out of your message from your dad in his bottle? Feel free. Yes.
So, I initially took it literally when he said, if your father rolled out of the sea in a bottle, what would it look like?
Yes.
And so I imagined, okay, he'd probably be pretty sunburnt.
Yes.
Pretty dizzy.
Yes, he would.
And he would require bacon, beer, and a nap
Yes.
before anything else could happen.
Yes.
His message after the nap, otherwise don't talk to him, would be,
Yes.
all I expect is your best. Just do your best, then you'll be okay. And his prayer would be for everyone to just get along. And for everyone to put their M&Ms in order by color.
Perfect.
And as for would he want you to tell his story, no. I always fly under the radar. Mind your business.
I love it. My father cannot wait to have his story told. And frankly, it is an incredible story. I've only told you a tiny, tiny bit today. Anybody else? Message from your father in the bottle. Yes.
I imagine the scene from I Dream of Jeannie where I can't remember his name, Tony, I guess it is. Tony gets out of the space capsule. My father was also in the Air Force during that period. So he'd come out of a space capsule, not a bottle, and he'd ask me, did you finish what you were doing when I left? And I would have to tell him that his death had disrailed my plans for the next couple of years.
Yes.
And but I would also be able to tell him that I recently have taken up my pen and started writing my outline draft for my master's dissertation.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah.
It's in the Middle Ages.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Anybody else want to share a message in the bottle from your dad? Okay.
The bottle would be in the form of a ski boat. Come out of it driving a white Cadillac. He didn't pray, so he would not have a prayer. He would say his life was a story. He told it the best he could when he was alive, so I don't need to retell it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. How is the little time hourglass going? Okay, am I through? I need to finish up. Okay. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll wrap it up. I'm just going to say that on one of our trips to Kansas City, when I was an infant, Dad's adoptive father, Clinton, dropped me after he had too much to drink. Y'all, there's so many stories. Yes, it does. It does. My dad's a weirdo, and so am I. Mama was furious, and we left the next morning, so I'm glad we had a better visit the second time around. Another time we went to Florida where Dad got badly sunburned and had to stay in the hotel room for the rest of the trip, but not before we took a picture together on the sand. He is holding me on his hip, looking gorgeous as always, and both of us seemed happy. He had a beach towel with a sexy woman and 36, 24, 36 on it. Mama was a wisp of a thing, beautiful in her green bikini. 2 photos of her linger in my mind, standing with me by the car, and one of her sitting alone in a lawn chair out in the water at low tide. I'd love to know her thoughts, but it's too late to ask her. I'll ask her in heaven when I see her. I've told you a little bit about the beginnings of the crazy story of me and my father, but the most important thing I wanted to tell you is I didn't see my father from when I was 7 until I was 25. After what happened in 1970, the marriage unraveled, and my dad we left my dad. My dad came home one day, and my mother had emptied out the apartment, and I remember he was standing in his white painter's pants with the paint all over it, because he was a house painter by then. And Mom said, you can go and give him a hug. And I remember running back to my dad's arms, and he held me for a minute, and that was it. And I only saw him one other time, and he tried to kidnap me in the car. So he didn't get to see me anymore after that. So when I was 25, I went and found my father. And I'm 56 now. So for the last more than 25 years, we've been trying to work on our relationship. It isn't entirely successful. We love each other, but there's this tension between us when we're in the room or when we're in a car driving to Atlanta, for example, as we were this weekend. I am probably my worst. The worst in me, I think, comes out when I'm with my father. I can be very cruel. I can be vicious, angry. My old rage comes up, and I just want to spit the meanest things. I turn into somebody I don't want to be. So lately, I've been trying to just get quiet. Let it settle down a little bit before I attack my father again, because he's old and he's pitiful. He's 80 years old. It's time for us to move on. And even though he continues to do things that drive me out of my mind, part of the problem is in me. It's in me. And so I'm encouraging you and me to look at our questions. Your second question is, what's your watermark? What's the thing on your hands that you carried with you from your parents? What patterns? Some of my patterns are my father's patterns. That hot temper that I can get. The mean streak that I can get. I hate it. But there's some good stuff too. So what are the patterns we got from our parents? The shades of lightness and dark. You know, I've got something new in my hand happening. It's called Dupuytren's contracture. Anybody ever heard of it? It's like a knot in your hand. It unfortunately, eventually, it can make your fingers curl down like this. So I'm going to have to go to the doctor. But yeah, it's third and fourth finger. There's a little knot starts in your hand and it spreads out to the fingers. This just came up, and I found out that one of the associations with this is your ancestry. Isn't that cool? God's so funny. If you have a Northern European ancestry, you're more likely to get this thing in your hand that I've got. But it's a watermark, so I'm asking us to look at our watermarks. What made us? And then what's the last question on your sheet?
At the end of one of my favorite movies,
we forgive our fathers, what is left? What does that mean? Forgive our mothers. And our mothers. But today is Father's Day, so I'm focusing on my father. Honor thy father and thy mother. And if we forgive our fathers, it seems to me there's not a lot left for us to try to forgive. It seems like this is because it's not just our father, literally, it's our fathers, our ancestors, everything that came down to us that made us into who we are and maybe caused some of our suffering or contributed to it. So I think it's just asking us if we can choose to forgive our fathers, some really miraculous things might happen. And I am trying to do that. And yesterday on the way home from Atlanta, even though a lot of times I'm stiff with my father, we had been singing old country songs, swerving like I'm George Jones. He thinks that's very funny. And I thought I could touch his hand. I could hold his hand. I could do that. I can do that. And I did. Just put my hand on his. He was shocked. And I held his little frail hand for the whole time the song was playing, and it felt so good. It felt so right. And I want to do it more often. So I'll just end with two things. There's a poem that you've already heard the gist of, and it's going to be on the screen over here that Jim's going to play for us in just a minute, or I think I have to help him. And then just some lines from Angel from Montgomery. Does everybody know that? So you can sing it with me? You can sing it with me. Let's go. I am an old woman named after my mother. My old man is another child that's grown old. If dreams were thunder, lightning was desire, this old house would have burned down a long time ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara.
You're welcome. I'm going to play this
Oh.
the thing for Jim. Is it working? Oh. What do I need to do? Hit the button again? Okay. Roku Express? Yes. Okay. Okay, hopefully y'all can see this since Candace promised poetry. And I had too much to say today. I couldn't bring poetry except this one.
We're getting all fancy up in here. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you. All right. Everybody breathe deeply. Support is something we crave from everywhere. From our parents, from society, from our friends, from our jobs, relationships. But it is support that keeps us all going, all moving. Lovely sound system. And we here at Jubilee Circle, we appreciate all of the support that you give to us throughout the years, throughout the days, throughout the months, whether it is in your time and your talents and your money, because that is what makes this community as vital and as alive as it is and can be. And so we continue to ask for your support. We continue to appreciate all of the support that everyone has given to us throughout the years so we can continue to be what we are here in this community. And so you can give online. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, you can go to jubileecircle.com, and there is a donate button, and there you will find a link to PayPal, a way to use Venmo, and the old-fashioned way of writing a check and sending it to us to Post Office Box 4611, Columbia, South Carolina, 29240. I'm going to need a band here very quickly, and there's just a few. Well, no, y'all stay, because we're going to do a little talk back. So we got a little talk back. And you can join us if you are not going to, if you can join us on Zoom. Hopefully in our YouTube there is a link to come to our Zoom room, and we will have a little talk back time to talk with Tamara and about Tamara's message. So y'all don't have to be up there right now. I was premature. Sorry.
That's okay.
But if you are watching us
Happens to
on
everybody.
YouTube and you are going to leave us for this week, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, as Meister Eckhart reminds us, if the only prayer you ever say your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. And we are grateful that you are there, and we are thankful for it all. And so we say, oh yeah, and we'll see you all next week. Please join us on the Zoom for some talk back.